Have you ever hit all your goals and still feel empty? You're not alone. Because real leadership doesn't start with metrics. Oh no, it starts with meaning. And today's episode is for every leader who's successful on paper, but you're still searching for purpose in practice. And if you are ready to lead from why instead of just what, then guess what? This episode right here, it's just for you. So let's get started. Welcome to the Best in Class series on Transformation Station Leadership Podcast, where we talk less about buzzwords and more about what it takes to actually lead with integrity, impact, and resilience. I'm your host, Adrienne Benton, and today we're diving into a game-changing conversation: purpose-driven leadership and what it really means to lead with the why. Let's face it, the pressure to perform is real, but today we're going to unpack how we can move forward, even if we have to realign our climb. Well, today I'm super excited because I have an amazing guest, a man with multiple years of leadership experience, Ian Chamady. Now, over the last 20 years, Ian has helped more than 400 organizations define their purpose and become consistently uniquely remarkable through his proprietary blueprint process. He is also an author, a speaker, a coach, as well as a contributor to a nationally broadcast television station. He co-wrote the book, Why Should I Choose You? Answering the most important question in business in 7 words or less. Transformation Station, it is my honor today to welcome Ian to our podcast. Ian, we're so glad to have you today. Welcome.
Thank you, Adrienne. I'm really glad. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to your audience, because it's a topic I'm very passionate about.
Excellent. Well, listen, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And here's one of the reasons why, as we were preparing, I was thinking about the fact that, what we're going to talk about today, we're not talking about slogans. We're not talking about vision statements written on a wall. We're really talking about that internal compass that keeps us going when our goals seem to shift, or keeps us going as leaders when our team is tired, or when pressure tells us to compromise. And that the phrase purpose driven, we've heard that phrase in many different ways over years, right? Especially if you're a high driven leader, you've heard that phrase, purpose driven leadership. Ian, I really would like to hear from you. What does purpose driven leadership mean to you, right? A man of experience in leadership, and from your perspective, how does it differ from some of the other leadership styles that are out there?
Sure. So I'm really glad you started with that question, because when you read about purpose, when you hear about purpose, usually all the talk about purpose is all the wonderful benefits of it. But nobody tells you what it actually is. And so what we have in the world is a whole bunch of people and companies that buy into the whole idea of purpose and being purpose driven. But when you say to them, oh, that's wonderful, what's your purpose? They don't have the foggiest idea. And they don't know, because they don't know what it is. It's not their fault, right? Mm-hmm. When you go online and you say, what is purpose? Tell me what purpose is. You get one of two kinds of definitions. You get this woo-woo, new age kind of lovey-dovey kind of thing. Appeals to some people, but it turns most businesses off because they don't understand how that translates into business growth. Or you get the really academic ones, which leave, your eyes glazing over. And either way, if you don't know what it is, how can you figure out what it is? It would be like me, Adrienne, saying to you, go and get this thing. And you say, what thing and where is it? And I say, don't worry about those details. But I'll tell you this, you'll know when you find it.
Yeah.
Come on.
Right.
So let me just back up a bit, because where I come from is that about 20 years ago, I co-created a different methodology for strategic planning, for guiding the company into its future. And it's a really simple 3-step process. And it's based on the belief, this is my fundamental belief, my most fundamental belief in business, is that the single most important strategic asset any business has is knowing what makes it uniquely remarkable. There's one thing at their core, at every business's core, that makes it uniquely remarkable. And most companies cannot articulate what that is. They can tell you what the features and benefits are for their products and services, but they can't tell you what it is that makes them uniquely remarkable as a business, that allows them to produce these products or services and sell them and deliver value. So my process starts, and that it's called the blueprint method, starts with defining the one thing at your essence that makes you uniquely remarkable as an organization. And our standard is you've got to do it in 7 words or less, because we've all seen, those mission statements or vision statements that are 3 paragraphs or 3 pages, and you read them and then you go, okay, I'll just put that over there and never look at that again. When it is a short statement that is self-evidently logical and that resonates on a deep emotional level, then you're not only, defining what makes you uniquely remarkable, but you're putting something out there that all your people can look at and say, yeah, that's why we're here. We're here because of that. And I love that, right? So it makes sense and it resonates on a deep emotional level. When you know what makes you uniquely remarkable in 7 words or less, you can do 2 very powerful things. One is you can use it to design, how you're going to operate. So the entire structure of your company and all the day-to-day machinations of it are guided by the one thing that makes you uniquely remarkable. And then the other thing you can do, this side of the triangle, is you can use it to design how you're going to communicate. So your branding, your marketing, your sales will all flow out of that. So what you're doing is you're using that one thing that makes you uniquely remarkable to design how you operate, design how you communicate. And those are all the activities of the company. And what you're doing is that you are guaranteeing that your company will be consistently uniquely remarkable, because everything it does and everything it says flows out of that one thing that makes it uniquely remarkable. So that was the methodology that we developed. And then what happened was, just before COVID, I ran into this quote by Pablo Picasso. And he said, the meaning of life is to find your gift. And your purpose is to share it with the world. And I thought that was brilliant. I mean, he's basically saying, figure out what the best version of yourself is, and then share that with the world, right? But what I realized when he said, your purpose is to find your gift and share it with the world, what I realized, at that point, for 17 years, my process started with defining what makes you uniquely remarkable. That's your gift. So I just took this blueprint method that, like I said, I had co-created and done for 17 years. And I wrapped it in a blanket of purpose. That 7 words or less is your purpose, right? Your gift. And you introduced the show by talking about your why. That's Simon Sinek. Your why, your purpose, the one thing that makes you uniquely remarkable, they're all the same thing, right? Sinek and I play in the same sandbox. We just do it a little differently. So I wrapped it in a blanket of purpose. And now the blueprint process is to define your purpose, that one thing that makes you uniquely remarkable, in 7 words or less, and use it to guide everything you do and everything you say.
I love it. I love it. So here in Best in Class series, we always give our listeners and our viewers an opportunity to pause and have some reflection. This is a really great place to pause and reflect. And to those who are watching and listening right now, Ian, talk to us about a few things. What's that thing that makes you uniquely you? How does that drive you in what you say, how you conduct yourself, how you respond and react to the things that come to you, how you isolate or how you come close? And he talks about 7 words or less, right? So not a long paragraph, a whole book or chapter. No, there's 7 words or less, nice and concise. And what would you say to the leader that's listening right now that's saying, okay, the blueprint, 7 words or less. Tell me more. Tell us a little bit more, Ian, about how this really works.
Okay, cool. So what I just did is I gave you the conceptual explanation. And maybe what I can do is give you a case study to make it a little bit more, tangible and real and that sort of thing. So um, this was about 15 years ago. We were approached by a retail shelving company, right? So Home Depot goes in, they build a box. This company goes in and they put up all the rack shelving inside the Home Depot. And when they're done, the store opens. And so I'm having breakfast with the CEO, and he says, I know there's a magic to my company. And this, by the way, I've heard this story a million times. The CEO, I know there's a magic to my company, but every time I open my mouth to talk about it, it sounds so generic, so banal, so like anything any of my competitors could say. And I said, John, it's because you don't know what business you're really in. And he said, you're right. I don't know what business I'm really in. And that, by the way, that is the sign of a great leader who is okay admitting what he or she doesn't know. So now, John knew that he was in the business of retail shelving, right? But he didn't know inside that sandbox what area he owned. And so he decided to do a blueprint. Now, when you do a blueprint, it's always the CEO. It's the CEO's project, plus 3 or 4 of his or her key decision makers. We keep the group small so that the conversation is very efficient and very substantive. And so we're having a conversation about his business. And where that conversation got interesting was when he started talking about how they had been in business for 3 generations, right? Not 3 decades, but actually 3 generations. And because of that longevity, they had developed techniques and processes and systems and procedures that allowed them to get finished significantly faster. So you can imagine if they get a Home Depot done a month faster than anyone else, the store opens a month sooner, and that's a month of retail sales that they did not anticipate. And that's about $2 million a week, as I understand it, at Home Depot. And that's real money in my world. So as we're having this conversation about getting finished faster, one of his VPs, and he says this just as a joke, he says, in our signs where it says opening soon, I want ours to say opening sooner. And I just went, that's brilliant. That is actually absolutely brilliant. What they had done, without really being too conscious of it, is aligned all of the forces in the company towards this one thing, getting finished faster, knowing that it is a massive benefit to something like a big box store like Home Depot or Best Buy or whoever. So I just said, that's brilliant. And that became the articulation of the one thing at their essence that made them uniquely remarkable. And then going back to Picasso, your purpose is to find your gift and share it with the world. Well, their purpose, their gift is opening sooner. So their purpose is to share opening sooner with the world, at least the world of construction. So now here's why a phrase like that is so magical. So first of all the employees in your organization, they now have bragging rights, right? You're not just putting up retail shelving. They are the fastest. Right?
Correct.
So they have bragging rights, right? And you can imagine them with opening sooner on their shirts and on their hats, and they're proud to do that. But also, when your purpose is opening sooner, and you walk into the office of a VP of construction at whatever company, and you say, I want to talk to you about my business. Our purpose is opening sooner. And they just go, whoa, what did you just say? Because those two words explode in their head, right? The VP of construction, they know what it means. The VP of construction has two things that he or she cares about: staying on budget, staying on time, right? And those two things equally cause the gray hair. When you walk in and you lead with opening sooner, that explodes in the VP of construction's head. They know, oh, whoa, are you saying that you're not only going to meet my deadline, but you're going to actually beat it by so much that the store opens sooner and starts generating revenue faster and making me a hero? All of that explodes. John doesn't have to talk about that. So what's happened now is two words, and they stick to the VP of construction's ears like this, like a listening filter. And he or she leans in and says, tell me more. And so now John says, he starts, the features and benefits of his business that would have been his only sales tactic before. Now he starts going through those features and benefits again. He says stuff like, we've got a special hiring process where we can pick the most efficient people. And the VP of construction is wearing the listening filter saying, oh, I get how that contributes to opening sooner. And then we train them in this special way that makes them even more efficient. Oh, I get how that contributes to opening sooner. And we have a special project management process that makes the whole thing run more efficiently. I get how that contributes. So your features and benefits, rather than just being a laundry list that you barf out on the table in front of your customer, they become proof points for this thing that is so important to the customer, which is opening soon.
Absolutely.
That's how, purpose works in a whole bunch of different ways in a company, but those are just two really powerful ways.
Yeah, no, I love this. It's almost like I hear you saying that we can use purpose as a filter, not just a statement, right? So you have your company's purpose can be shaped, you mentioned, through hiring decisions, through the marketing language, through product innovation, through leadership behavior. As you were talking, it's almost like I could hear the excitement of the employees, right? Because they had a vision, they had a mission, everybody was on it, and it also was kind of like a challenge sooner, right? So they were able to use the purpose as a filter. Right. And at the same time, they were able to involve the team in the alignment process. The team was now involved in this sooner. Right. And so to our leaders who are listening, Ian really is sharing some serious leadership gems here that you can not just reflect on, but also take it a step further and say, okay, starting today, like, how can I use this? Now, Ian, I'm going to ask you now to share, because I'm really curious about these 7 words or less, right? So I'm going to ask you to go back and then go forward as far as deeper. Why 7 words or less? Please, I really want to hear this. Tell us about this. Why 7 words or less?
Okay, so when my partner and I started this business, sadly, my partner died during COVID. But when we started this business, we started it because we both had a passion for strategic planning, but we also hated the traditional process, right? If we were going to do traditional strategic planning, we would come in and we would help you do mission, vision, and values. And we just really, show me someone who can tell me the difference between vision and mission. Almost nobody can. They use them interchangeably. And also tell me a company where all the employees can actually tell you what the mission statement is. And the thing is, if nobody knows what the mission statement is, how is it guiding behavior? Right? Why do you have a mission statement? At the end of the day, it's not to have pretty words up on a plaque. It's to guide the behavior of the organization and all of its employees. So if it's not that active, if it's not that front of mind with all of your employees, it's pointless. So, and I'll give you an example. So we blueprinted an actuarial firm. And for my book, this was a few years later, I was interviewing the CEO of the actuarial firm. And she told me a story about walking through the business one day. And they've got a big cube farm where, all the minions are there doing all their spreadsheet stuff. And she said, I was blown away. So the purpose statement, the 7 words or less of the actuarial firm was creating a greater degree of certainty. So that's what all their mathematical models did. They helped CEOs and CFOs have a greater degree of certainty about, their financial, their view into the future. And she said, I couldn't believe how many people had printed out in big letters on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, creating a greater degree of certainty, and just put it up, pinned it up to their wall. Who does that? Where do you see that in a company? None of the employees were told to do that. They just fell in love with the idea that as actuaries, what they were actually doing, the business that they were in, was not mathematical models. It's creating a greater degree of certainty. So when Ken and I started the business, we said, that's the other thing, right? Values. We need to define our values, or we're a values-driven company. Really, what are your values? Well, if they can name them, I can virtually guarantee you that there's about 15 words that are used as values. And every company just cherry picks 5 or 6 of those words. So, every company has basically the same values. But if you have a value like honesty or responsibility or accountability, you're a new employee coming into that firm and they say, our values are honesty, accountability, and responsibility. It's like, well, I already think I'm honest, accountable, and responsible. How do these values guide my behavior? They don't. Now, a company says to me, well, these are our values. I'll take one of them and I'll say, great, what does that mean? And in their answer, they will say something like, well, I believe this, or we believe that. Beliefs are one step below values. And when you say, well, what my value means is I believe this, this, and this, those beliefs are great. They're tangible. They guide behavior. I'll give you an example. One of our beliefs, our most fundamental beliefs, is that the traditional tools of business are no longer enough. Right? The ones that were developed post Second World War in big companies and big academic institutions, they're no longer enough. So that's a belief of blueprint. And if I then came to you and said, so now I'm going to lead you through a process of mission, vision, and values, I would be in disagreement with my beliefs, right? So that belief, the traditional tools of business are no longer enough, forces me to go out and look for new ideas and new people to collaborate who found a better way to do, the old things, or have just invented something new. So I've really lost sight of your question, but I think it was something about the 7 words or less.
Yes.
Why we chose that, and it's because when you make it so short, and as you can see, it's usually 2 or 3 or 4 words from the examples that I gave you, it has what we call the 3 easies. It's easy to understand, easy to remember, easy to repeat. So in the first instance, easy to understand. Well, all of these short statements are self-evident and logical.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need opening sooner explained to you? Do you need a greater degree of certainty explained to you? Sure, you'd love to hear more detail, but you get it as soon as you hear it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you hear it, you got to be able to understand it and internalize it. Second thing is easy to understand, easy to remember. It's 7 words or less, right? And then easy to repeat. If you understand it and you remember it, then you can be an evangelist for it. And what that means is, in the first instance, all of your employees now become far better sales evangelists for your organization because they're leading from opening sooner, your purpose, or a greater degree of certainty. They'll all tell the story in a different way, but they know what the story is. They know it needs to focus on opening sooner, and they will tell a compelling story for you. But the other thing is, Adrian, if I tell you that my purpose, my personal purpose, is transforming confusion into clarity,
Mm-hmm.
do you need much of an explanation of that to understand what my talent is? And if you knew somebody who was confused about something, who had a difficult problem, wouldn't you immediately know, hey, you should talk to this guy, Ian, because he has a special talent for transforming confusion into clarity, right?
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I don't need to explain my purpose to you for you to be able to sell me to somebody else.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. So leaders, I'm going to invite you right now to practice. Ian says 7 words or less. Go ahead, take out your pen, your laptop, your tablet, and even if you can't do this moment, before you go to bed tonight, just ask yourself, practice 7 words or less. How would I define, how could I clarify what is my purpose in 7 words or less? That is a powerful exercise all by itself. So as we turn the corner, Ian, I have one final question for you. And I know that there are listeners and there are viewers who really need to hear this answer. And here's the question. What's a practical way or some practical ways that leaders can reconnect with their purpose when they're facing organizational setbacks, right? How would doing the 7 words, using the blueprint, how can leaders use that to reconnect? Because there's a leader that's been in the game for a long time. And they're just like, okay, like I've done it all, seen it all. It's not going to get any better from here. But what I hear you saying to us, you're speaking hope through this blueprint and through these 7 words. So how can a leader practically reconnect with their purpose through the 7 words or the blueprint?
Well, I don't mean to be argumentative, but I'm going to push back on one thing. They're not going to reconnect with it because they were never connected with it in the first place. If you can't say it, then it doesn't exist, right? So, but what they can do, so I'll say 2 things to answer the question. The first thing is, and this relates to your last point about writing it down, thinking about it, blah, blah, blah. Consider this question. If everything that your business does and says is a means to an end, what's the end purpose? Now, that's a question that throws you for a bit of a loop as a business leader because you think your end purpose is to sell the products or services that you produce. No, that's an activity that is an expression of your purpose. Just like putting up the retail shelving is an expression of the retail shelving company's purpose. But it's not its purpose. Opening sooner is its purpose. Now, the other thing is that at the end of the day, among all the other things it does, purpose is a very powerful decision-making tool. Because as your employees are faced with hundreds or thousands of questions every day. What do I do here? What do I do here? How do I handle this? How do I create that? And if you have no guidance for how to do that, then you've got all sorts of options, and how do you separate the wheat from the chaff? It becomes a difficult thing. But if you know what your purpose is as a company, like the retail shelving company does, opening sooner, then all of your questions become, what solution to this is most aligned with our purpose? What option available to me is most aligned with my purpose? Now, when you ask the question, which of my options in terms of business decisions is most aligned with the company purpose, you have guidelines on the answer. Everything in the world does not become a potential answer. There's only a few choices that fit the guideline of being aligned with your purpose. And so it makes decision making much easier. So when John is thinking of instituting some new innovation, he's got to ask himself, does this somehow advance or enhance the process of getting finished faster? And if the answer is no, he's got to ask himself why he's considering it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just wrap up this answer. At the end of the blueprint, he said, I love it. I love where we are, but what happens when our competitors, and this is a really, really important point, what happens when our competitors start copying us and catching up? Well, what a business normally does then, that in that situation, is they say, oh, we got to figure out how to stay ahead. We got to figure out, let's come up with ideas. Let's have a blue sky session or a blue ocean, all that stuff. And then, you come up with a whole bunch of options, and you got to figure out how to cull that and pursue something. No, what John does, he just says, let's come up with new ways to get finished faster.
Mm-hmm.
Their innovation, their focus for innovation is provided by their purpose. We are looking for innovative things that help us get our clients finished faster. Mm-hmm. And that's all. Everything else we tune out.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. You have dropped some serious gems, and this has been an amazing conversation. So with that said, I also am quite sure that we have listeners and viewers that want to tap into you so they can hear more or learning more about the 7 words, the blueprint. How can someone get engaged with your resources and what you have to offer? Please tell us.
Sure. Well, my website is the number 7 words. Oh, there, there it is on the screen. 7words.biz. So what you'll get there are basically 2 things. There's an explanation of the business, blah, blah, blah. But also, I have a very robust blog. And I have 1 million videos on there that say how purpose accelerates training, how purpose creates a magnetic culture, how purpose does this, how even how purpose accelerates a merger. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole bunch of, you just go to my blog, there's a whole bunch of things there that explain all the different ways that having a purpose that is defined as the one thing that makes you uniquely remarkable can make your company better, faster, stronger. So 7words.biz. Love to see you there. Or send me an email, which you can do through the website. Love to hear from you.
Absolutely. So Transformation Station community, you heard Ian there. We want to support him. And because we also want to grow as a leadership community, I'm going to invite you right now to go ahead and go to his website. It will be on the description as well, so you'll see it there. But tap in, contact him, let him know that you've seen this or heard this podcast. Ask him questions because we want to grow. Ian, thank you again for joining us for this impactful conversation. It's been a pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you so much.
For me as well, Adrienne. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Well, there you have it. Another episode that has been absolutely impactful. If today's episode sparks something for you, then I'm going to invite you to share it with not just one, but share it with two colleagues who, like you, are ready to move forward with more intention. And as always, stay connected, stay grounded, keep on leading from the inside out. I'll see you next week, same time, same transformation.